On? Right on. I am Dr. Brett Spradlin. This is Divine Design Natural Health, and we are here with a rowdy crew. Whoa! Goodness gracious! Woo! Not kidding. We've got two families in here, just overpowering everybody. Yes, we have a great crowd, and we are going to. Oh, and we're making more room. Get on in here, folks. And we are talking tonight. It's a continuation of a previous series, I guess you could say. It's a series of a class called Lies Doctors Tell. Now, how many of you have seen the first one or first two? Yeah, a handful of people. So this kind of came about in a roundabout way. Just over the years of being in practice and everything, I would hear things that other doctors would say, other natural doctors, other medical doctors, other things that they would say, and I would keep track of what my patients were saying. I'd say, wow, that's an interesting little statement there. I've never heard that before. So this has kind of grown from just a small couple of sentences, couple of phrases, to being over. Now this is the third part, and each one of those previous classes were multiple, were like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. So before we get right down to that, I have a couple of announcements to make. Our next event, next Monday, July 27th, how many of you have heard of Vaxxed, the movie? About 5 or 6. How many of you have heard that there's a series to Vaxxed, or I should say a sequel to Vaxxed? Another small chunk of people. In 2015, there was a group of people, a couple of people that came out of the CDC and said there were some statistics that we faked, and we want to come clean about it. And there was a documentary made about those people who came out of the CDC and had faked statistics regarding certain shots and the MMR injectant. That was 2015. The producer of a show on TV called The Doctors, who I'm sure many of people in this room know that show, found out about this little predicament that was not talked about in mainstream media and went out and filmed a documentary. And that documentary was called Vaxxed. And that documentary went around the world and spawned a sequel called Vaxxed 2, which was slated to be out. Once again, that Vaxxed Part 1 was 2015, okay, so that was a while ago. 2019, December, Vaxxed 2 was slated to be out, and so we bought, just like we did on Vaxxed 1, we bought, I think though Vaxxed 1, I was fresh in practice, I think we bought like maybe 20 tickets, and took some people to Chattanooga, took some well-beloved patients to Chattanooga to show them that movie, and it just blew everybody's minds because it was dealing with some very interesting things that you're not told about. Anyway, fast forward to December of last year, beginning of December? End of November of last year, of 2019, and Vaxxed 2 was slated to come out. We purchased 50 tickets to take a bunch of patients to Chattanooga to the movie theater to show them now the sequel of this very successful movie that was pulled from a very famous film festival, by the way. And this movie ended up, the days before it was supposed to be shown, ended up being yanked and pulled by AMC theaters. The actual movie theater shut the film down. Like we talked about last week in class, if any of you were here, I know many of you were here last week in class. If something's censored, what does that tell you about it? If something's censored, what does that tell you about it?
It's true. I don't listen.
There may be elements of it that you may want to avail yourselves of. So that movie was censored from your viewing back in, just like I may be censored on social media this very moment, so I'm choosing my words very wisely. So we went ahead and bought that movie, and we're going to show it here. So if we can't take you to the movie, we're going to bring the movie to you. Why? Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, why? Why would we do that? Because in the fall, what happens? Who goes back to where in the fall?
School. Kids go to school.
Kids go to school. And what is being pushed right now by the media for your kids to have? Correct. I'm having you say that so the AI doesn't pick it up on the overhead mic. So you guys get in trouble, not me. So there are some things that you might want to avail yourselves of in that documentary, because it is a documentary that follows this bus around the entire country and interviewing people who have been damaged by previous injectants or what we will call shots. So that next week, Monday, will not be live streamed. It is RSVP only. We have a thing going around right now. We're limited seating, so if you want to come and see this thing, you can't see it in theaters. If you want to come and see this thing and you want to see what's going on with, a documentary based on CDC scientists that came out and told the truth and said, yeah, we cooked the books, we threw out some data, and now we can't live with ourselves. That was 5 years ago. What is the name of the organization that's telling you how to live your life right now? WHO, CDC, right? So you get the point of what we're trying to say. So you might need to know a little bit about this. So this is the movie that was censored. It's, people who watch live stream, I know there's a lot of people out there watching who live stream, watch us every week, and they're within driving distance. You should come and see this thing, okay? It has a lot to do with your kids starting school in the next few weeks. So if you're like a teacher or a medical professional, how many of you in this room are medical pros? 1, 2, 3, 4, was, that counts. 5, do I hear a 5? Do I hear 6? I counted you. I counted you.
Twice.
Not just the personalities? Okay. So 5 or 6 people in this room are medical professionals. So if you're a teacher specifically, or a medical professional, or if you're anyone you know ever plans on attending any type of school in the near or the distant future, or anything like that, you need to be here. If you plan on, let me just take it one step further and say, if you plan on ever purchasing anything, if you plan on traveling anywhere, or if you plan on doing anything on planet Earth for the rest of your known existence, you might want to come to check this thing out because you will want to know what this is all about. You must see this. So that's a little caveat for next week. It will not be live streamed. It will only be here. The deal is we're not trying to hide it from you guys. We're trying to, you can't show a movie on Facebook. There's copyright stuff. So we can't put it on live stream. It's not like we're trying to hide anything or keep anything from you guys. We just want everybody to be here. We've got 4 or 5 TVs in this office, and we'll just airplay it all across the whole, every TV in this office, and you guys can go lay down on the couches and just put your feet up and he is all in. And then the week after that, so next week is the Vaxxed showing, and then the week after that will be another little update on some of the interesting stuff that's going on in the world, which we have some interesting stuff to tell you about tonight. Now, regarding our topic tonight, Lies Doctors Tell, Part 3. Like I said, this is not to throw anybody under the bus. This is, we all know there are things that are very uncomfortable to talk about. There are things that I get no pleasure out of bringing to the forefront of people's attention, but at the same time, I'm held responsible for what I know. So if I learn that XYZ is in the water supply and I don't tell people about XYZ, well, then I have to live with myself. If I learn that there are pesticides and things, that have been tested to find, to be, commensurate with cancer, and I don't tell people, hey, you should probably change your food supply. Or if I find that there are things in toxic chemicals and personal care products, and I don't tell people, you guys don't have to live with that, I do. So when I discover certain things like this, there's no enjoyment I get out of saying, yep, we've all been duped. Oh, yeah, it sucks. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. There's nothing you can do, and blah, da, 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 da. No, there is something you can do. You can learn about it. You can be aware of it. But until you're aware of something, you'll get sideswiped. If you don't know that there is a dog bomb in your backyard, and you go out just walking around your backyard, and you step in it, then you can pay the consequences. It's a horrible analogy, but you get the point. However, if you do know there are dog bombs out there and you go out and you're aware of the location of said dog bombs, you can avoid and thereby not mess up your foot. What I'm saying by all this is I get no enjoyment out of I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I have people in my family and my close personal professional friends who are in the medical profession. I love the medical profession. I love this. Half this practice is, how many nurses we got in here? A ton. How many respiratory therapists? How many new patients, pharmacists, pharm techs, physical therapy assistants, nurses. I mean, we got a couple people right here. 4 or 5 people in this room. Well, 4 or 5, yeah. A majority of our patients are, I'll say it again, I say it almost in every class just because I want to get that across to people. The majority of our patients are healthcare professionals or have been healthcare professionals. So you have to ask yourself the question, well, then why are they coming here? Well, there's an answer to that. So I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. This is not anything that we just have to realize and look at the statistics and think, okay, America has the most healthcare on the planet. We've got the drugs, the surgeries, the shots. We've got everything on this planet. We've got imaging centers on every corner. Yet do we have a healthy population in comparison to most of the world? No, everybody's shaking their head no. Everybody knows this. Even if you don't watch the news, you still know it. If you don't read books, you still know that. Everybody, a lot of people know that we do not have a very healthy population, right? But we have all of the drugs, we have all of the shots, we have all of the imaging centers, we have all of the procedures, correct? So intellectual honesty requires you to look at that and say, something's wrong. Just like I had to. So every one of us has to look at that and go, you know what? Yeah. Intellectual honesty requires us to ask the right questions, even if those questions make you uncomfortable. Even if those questions might lead to an answer that you don't like, which is what I had to go through, which is anybody who walks in here from the medical profession, they have to look at this as well. And they have to go, well, this dude might tell me something that I don't like. Am I okay with that? You have to be okay with unlearning some of the things that you've learned. In order to be intellectually honest with yourself, how many of you have gone down a rabbit hole at some point and said, man, that is completely opposite to everything I learned? And you went, oh my gosh, no wonder so many people thought X, Y, Z. Well, that's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm saying. You have to be comfortable with going down that path. And if you're okay with that, then you're in the right spot. This isn't going to be always comfortable. It's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns, but it will at least be the truth. And in this place, I have a mandate to speak the truth to you guys. An absolute, complete, and total utter duty and responsibility. Because me telling you anything less than the truth is not going to help you. Okay? So just know that. If you will never hear me speak an opinion, you will never hear me speak how I feel, what I think, or what I believe. You will hear me speak to you what I can prove in a court of law. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Yes. All right. I hope you all appreciate that, because it's not always comfortable to stand up here and tell everybody the sky's falling. But, well, Andrea has a good story. You came to a class before you ever worked here. I said a few things. You thought I was nuts. Correct. Cut me off and correct me if I'm wrong. You thought I was what now?
I thought you were a quack.
A quack. She used that word. She thought I was a quack until, then what happened?
I researched what you said for a handful of months and realized you were not incorrect. I thought to myself, I'm going to go research and tell this guy how he's wrong.
And prove him wrong, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then
I get
you were
that.
right.
I get that.
Which drastically changed, the choices that we were making for ourselves and for our kids, which was not comfortable.
Not comfy.
Or fun at times.
Right.
Some people were mad about the choices that we started making.
Right.
Or stopped making.
Yeah.
But we had to do what we knew was going to be best.
Right.
And not pout over the decisions we had made previously, but just pick up and move on and do better now that we knew better.
Right. You hear that? So it was about her and her family, and it was trying to prove me wrong. You think I haven't had people try to prove me wrong before? And it's not about who's right, who's wrong. I could give two rips about who's right, who's wrong. I want truth. In this world, you can buy and sell truth with a white paper journal. Okay? In this world, see, facts don't even matter anymore. In this world, you can have X and Y chromosome, and you walk into a courtroom, and you're a girl. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can have an X and Y chromosome. Facts don't matter. It's your opinion that matters. For the first time in human history, we live in a world that is so dangerous that an opinion is more truthful than is more powerful than fact. And so many people won't see it. So I will go down swinging for bloody thunder, telling you the truth so that you can understand what's going on. Does that make sense? So you thought I was nuts, and it's no joy I take out of people trying to disprove. It's okay, it happens, go for it. If you can find something, then great, more power to you. But she thought I was nuts, and now she works here. Take that. Who won this one? Okay. So for example, industry science versus independent science, I think you might all get that. Industry science is paid for by the industry that it is trying to propagate a product through. Like, say, for cell phone science, cell phone industry putting out industry science saying that fifth-generation wireless technology poses no threat to humans, right? But then you've got independent science that comes out and says, whoa, 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 5th generation wireless technology causes cancer in laboratory animals and causes cancer in this and causes arthritis and causes asthma and causes symptoms that look a lot like, whoops, I can't say that, right? So you've got independent science, independent people who aren't making money off selling a product, and then you've got industry science, which is making a lot of money by selling that product. If you look at the two, you will see massive differences in the outcomes of those independent, of those white papers, of those peer-reviewed journal articles that all of your friends on Facebook are dying to see, that they won't read when you send it to them. Yeah, those papers. So just know that. So back in March of 2016, we started with this right here, Lies Doctors Tell, Part 1. Okay, and let's just run through a few of them at the very beginning, just so y'all can sink your teeth into this for a minute and just kind of see. We'll go back to the very beginning and just run through a few of these and just see. I want to just get a feel. Yeah, take your time. But I want to just get a feel for if any of y'all have ever heard any of these, because some of these are rather comical and some of them are rather outlandish, and some of them you think, is that for real? I've heard these. These are real. So once again, I got most of these from going to my patients and saying, hey, you work in a healthcare field. Yes, I'm a registered nurse. Okay, tell me some things that you heard from your doctors or people that you worked with that was just kind of outlandish. And she said, oh, well, yeah, here's this one. So they eventually became, it eventually became quite a huge list. I would go to some physical therapists and I'd say, hey, or I'd go to a farm tech, or I'd go to somebody and I'd say, hey, what are some things that you've heard your patients say? And so it eventually grew into this massive thing. If we can't go right back to the beginning, just start at the beginning of this one. So, and while we're talking about this, regarding the what you have to know about what's going on in the world right now with all of the craziness, we're going to talk more about this next week. Not next week, the week after that. What is the date? August 3rd? Yeah. Regarding what's going on in the world right now, the whole CV thing, you have to look at the sensibility of it, the truthfulness of it, the fear of it, the illogical side of it, what's not being disclosed, some of the numbers that are being played around with. We talked about a lot of this last week. We talked about some of the, we're all set? Okay, we'll just skip this part. So let's go back to the very beginning and just kind of bounce through a few of these so that you kind of get a sense for the very beginning ones. Stuff like this. Stuff like when a doctor looks you in the eye and says, your organ isn't working. How many women in this room has a doctor told you your thyroid's not working? I'm telling you, these are widespread. It's a safe drug as long as you're past the first trimester, right? Doesn't take long. Doesn't take long at all. You don't have to have a medical degree. You don't have to go to school for 13 years like me. You don't have to understand. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree. You don't even really have to read English to know that that's quackery, I should say. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. Chiropractic's only good for neck pain, back pain, headaches. How many of you in this room would agree with that statement? It's only good for neck pain, back pain, headache. Right. You'll eventually have to learn to live with the pain. How many of you have had no loved ones or friends or family members who were told that? And then they get sent to what? What kind of clinic? Oh, that's completely normal for your age. Hot dog fingers and anal leakage and all of these other conditions. That's completely normal. Bladder stuff, migrating intestines. Totally normal. Nope, next. So it took us a while, and we peeled through some of these, and I actually told some stories and some anecdotes about some of the stuff I've heard. Stay away from salt. You've all heard that. You need 8 glasses of water per day. Incorrect. You have to stop eating vegetables. A big no-no. Big no-no. How many of you have heard people eating green leafies? If you take this blood pressure drug, you can't eat the green leafies, or the antiplatelet drugs. You can't eat the green leafies, right? So take this pill created in a laboratory by a man for profit, but do not eat green leafy vegetables made by God. Does that make sense to you? Not at all. Not to a child would that make sense. You wouldn't do that to a child, but we do it to our loved ones, friends, family. This is one of my favorites. Your intestines are too long. I heard that one so often. I started hearing it I know. It's how? I just explained, draw it out to me, draw out how that works. But I've heard it. I heard it enough times where everybody's shaking their heads like, what? until everybody, yeah, this is for real. This is why I brought this up, this series for you guys, for you to understand some of the lunacy that we're told that may not be necessarily true. Your intestines are too long. The reason for bowel resection or cutting out small intestines, you change your digestion, you just change your existence, because you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. We need to constantly monitor your blood sugar, but sugar does not have an impact on your health. Have you ever, grandparents, aunts, uncles, anybody, have you ever heard that said to them? Or have you ever seen a diabetic in the hospital being fed cake and sugar and candy and bread and noodles and pasta? That's sugar. Next. So I think we get the point. People are healthier now compared to the past. Incorrect or incorrect? Horribly incorrect. Stay out of the sun. It gives you cancer. You'll die without this medication. Implants are safe. You'll never need to replace them. Oh, I love this one. 50 years from now, it'll dig you up, and your body will still. It'll dig up your body, and the implants will still be there. That one sounds familiar. You have too much stomach acid. One of the most common, and I will lay waste to that one in 30 seconds. If you have a question about that one, we're not going to cover it right now, but we can later if you have a question. Next. So we blasted through it. So that was like the first episode. That was back March 16th. These are all on Facebook. They're all on YouTube. If you want the explanations of some of these and the lunacy that goes along with them, you can go back to March 16th. That was the very first one. That was called Lies Doctors Tell Part 1. And then March 13th, we started here. They've lived a good long life. What's that basically saying? Let them die. Your condition's hereditary. That right there that will render most people completely ineffective at anything they try to do to get out from under the burden of that disease, because they're thinking, well, it's my genes. What am I going to do to change my genes? It's not true. 99% of the time, it's not true. BRCA gene, I hear it somebody's asking, BRCA, what about the breast cancer gene? Not true. And we'll answer some of these questions at the end. So write your questions down, we'll talk about it, and let me know about commercial breaks. If you'd have waited one more month, you'd be dead. Oh my gosh, if I had a nickel for every time. You need this pill, but I wouldn't take it either. That's the doctor talking. I'm serious, these nurses and people. Sure, come off your meds. No big deal. That one we can talk about later. Are we ready? Okay, so commercial break. Bring up Andrea.
All right. So this person says, before beginning pulse therapies, I had nearly chronic knee pain as well as back pain that would flare up and last for days. The targeted pulse sessions have greatly reduced both problems as well as helping my body to heal cuts faster.
Yes. Explain to everyone what pulse therapy is.
Pulse electromagnetic field therapy. The unit puts off an electromagnetic field that really closely matches the one that the Earth puts off. So it allows our bodies to have exercise at the cellular level and to begin to regain and maintain their proper electrical charge over a long period of time as it's used as consistent therapy. Because our bodies actually need a certain amount of electrical charge to function the way that God designed them to. Mm-hmm. But our charges become depleted from toxins in our environment, our food, our products, as well as harmful signals that we take in, 5G tower, wireless towers, some other stuff.
Or jive free. We're just going to start calling it jive free.
And also coupled with the fact that we're not walking around barefoot a whole bunch outside anymore. All those things kind of work together to deplete our charge. Yep. So the PEMF therapy allows it to our bodies to regain that charge.
Where can they see a pulsed electromagnetic field therapy unit?
Here.
Yes, and we'll do a tour at the end so y'all can see.
Yes.
If y'all aren't familiar, there's a few new people here who may not have ever seen one of these. We'll show you how they work.
Super fascinating.
Super fascinating. Very cool. Yes, thank you, darling. And we had last week, or was that last week? Andre was here. We showed, we had the darkness to light. We talked about some of the current events that are going on. That's the most recent class that we had. And we had a guest speaker who's a nurse here in town talking about some of the stuff that's been happening that she's been seeing on the front lines. One of our patients saying, this is what's happening in the hospitals, this is what's happening with death certificates, this is what's happening with the incentive being offered for diagnoses, things like that. And then at the very end, one of my friends who'd driven up here from New Orleans came up with a broken hand. We used the pulse electromagnetic field therapy to fix his hand. Within 4 days, the pain went 80%, probably 80% decrease in the pain and dysfunction, and he almost had grip back with a broken hand. So that gives you a little bit of history on what some of the pulse electromagnetic field therapy can do, or we just say pulse. You're in remission, you have baby skin, your bladder's too small. Not only can your intestines be too long, but your bladder can be too small, or you can have baby skin. You're in remission, let's wait 6 months, see if the lump gets bigger. How many of you heard this one? I mean, that's not like really a lie. That's just kind of like putting things off and saying, well, we just pray, pray for the best, But why don't we do something proactive to decrease the size of the lump? Why don't we do something proactive to help your body engulf that thing, chew it, digest it, spit it out? See? And we'll get to one of my least favorite lies here very shortly in just a minute. The benefits outweigh the risks. Incorrect. We need to keep your blood thin with baby aspirin. How many of you, every person in this room knows people who have taken baby aspirin with the thought that it was keeping their blood thin. Until about last year when they came out and said that aspirin causes more risks than benefits. Oh, only after a generation of people had been on it for 60 years. Created and manufactured by Bayer Pharmaceuticals, German Nazi pharmaceutical manufacturer, right? Your child has ADD and needs regular narcotics. Yeah, that's not what they don't say it like that, mind you. They don't say it like that. Let's manage your pain. I've heard that from people that said, I just came here and they told me that all we could do is manage my pain. We've done everything we can do. Incorrect. You have not. We don't know what causes it, but the drug will fix it. Fast forward. Where are we? Oh, yeah. We're almost there. The drugs are finally working. That's one of my favorites because after 6 months of being here and they're getting better, they go back to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, the drugs are finally working. I haven't been taking the drugs. If you're 2 inches shorter, insurance will cover the gastric bypass. This actually isn't a lie. This is just the way that insurance companies work so that doctors can lie. Because if you are 2 inches shorter or if you're a little heavier, based on your BMI, sometimes the insurance will pay for gastric bypass. Does everybody track with that? So in other words, insurance incentivizes doctors to not necessarily tell the truth or to bend the scales or the measuring rods. So if you're 2 inches shorter, insurance covers the gastric bypass. That's the way it happens. It's just a vestigial organ. And here we are starting today. Here's where we're starting. This is one of my favorites that you'll hear for the removal of everything from wisdom teeth to tonsils to gallbladders to appendices to ovaries to uteruses to uteri. Uteruses? Uteri? Plural uterus? Uteri? It's just a vestigial organ left over from evolution. You'll be fine without it. Vestigial means no longer useful, means it's passing away. Atheism and evolution have invaded your schools. They have invaded your medical schools, your hospitals, your churches. Atheism and evolution is what that is based upon. So if you believe that you were created, then everything in you has a purpose. If you can think of something that was created that doesn't have a purpose, you'll be a gazillionaire because we've been looking for stuff that was created with no purpose for a long time. Everything that is created was created for a purpose. So if you have an organ in you, there's a purpose for that organ. Now, if you take out that gallbladder or that appendix, you will have problems later on. For instance, the statistics that go along with someone who's missing a gallbladder who will eventually need a full hysterectomy, those statistics are staggering. Now, why would that be? Well, your gallbladder, among other things, is a way to digest fat. So if you can't digest fat, you're going to have heart problems, you're going to have skin problems, you're going to have cancer problems, you're going to have cartilage problems, you're going to have all kinds of problems. So if you get that gallbladder out because you were told this, you've been lied to. It is not left over from evolution. It is there for a purpose and a reason. Tonsils started getting ripped out back in the 30s until we discovered that they were lymphoid tissue. Whoops. So what does that mean? Your first defense for anything breathed, smelled, swallowed, eaten, anything drunk, anything going down your throat and into your stomach, into your gastrointestinal system, the first line of defense is your tonsils. So what happens when you remove the tonsils? What happens? You're wide open for what? Everything. Yep. So the tonsils used to be thought of as a vestigial organ too until we figured out what they did. Next, we can stop the bleeding with a How many of you have heard of this? Yeah. Yeah. And there's another way you can stop bleeding. If you're a young girl, it's called birth control pills. We'll get to that in a little while. Okay. Which licensed an entire generation to be sick. So we can stop the bleeding with hysterectomy. We just take out the organ. Are there ramifications to taking out the organ? Yes. That's where we're going with this. We've been told these things. They're not necessarily true, but you have to question what you're being told. Specifically, if your insurance pays for it or it's free. I'll say that again. If it's paid for and it's free, there's something about it that's not good for you. And so many people will come in and say, well, my insurance pays for everything. My insurance pays for this. My insurance pays for that. How much do you pay for your insurance? Huh? How much do you pay for your insurance? Oh, well, it comes out of my husband's paycheck. How much does your husband pay for his insurance? Oh, well, $500 a month. Okay, well, you get $500 a month times 12, so there's $6,000, right? And then you got, how big's your deductible? Oh, it's like $6,000 or $8,000. Okay, so now you're up to 12 or 15,000 before your 80/20 kicks in, and then you still got, co-insurance and prescription costs on top of that, right? Well, yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way. I know. That's why I'm explaining it. So you still have the entrance fee to pay before you get your discount. Understand that. So oftentimes these are incentivized in your insurance plan. Does that make sense? We'll stop talking about that there. But all of the other stuff that we're getting to with the young women, old women, they want those organs gone. There's incentive for that to happen. We won't get into it now. The shot is safe and effective. How many of you have heard that? I won't get into I teach entire classes on shots. I'm not saying the word because the AI will kick me out of the world if I get caught saying a certain word, right? That should tell you something. That should tell you something. So the shot or the injectant is safe and effective. They've not been studied for carcinogenic potential. They've not been studied for mutagenic potential. They've not been studied for infertility. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? They've never been studied for some of these things that they know they do. Reference back to the movie we told you about where the CDC scientists came out in 2014 and they finally made a documentary about it in 2015 about this topic. Hundreds of thousands of cases. We're going to actually, if we can get her here, she's a patient, she was mid-20s at the time. She got the Gardasil shot. It was never the same. She's a patient. Grown woman. We're not talking about shots of kids. We're talking about grown women. We want her to come and speak at that class. She's been a patient now for years, and she's gotten wonderful results. So that right there, safe and effective? Incorrect. You can't say it's safe and effective because then the insurance companies would not have, they wouldn't have, first of all, there wouldn't be attorneys that specialize in that type of injury. You got me? There wouldn't be insurance billing codes for that type of injury if it was safe and effective.
It wouldn't be protected from lawsuits if it was safe.
Correct. It wouldn't be protected from lawsuits if it was safe and effective. That's all I'll say about that. I teach entire classes on this. We've got books, documentaries, DVDs, PhD level research scientists that aren't making money off selling shots. Remember that industry science versus independent science. Everything I'm listening to, watching, reading, following, independent science. Does that make sense? That's end the debate right now. End the debate right now. What science are they listening to? Are they listening to science written by the maker of the shot, or are they listening to science by someone who studied it in a research setting for a long time and saw it having bad effects? End the debate. There's too much argument, too much opinion, too much crap going on. For your own good, you have to stop touching your face. And just critical thinking these days is really going bye-bye. We got a couple more. Obese, you smoke, you don't exercise, but you want everyone to, it's about the way it is, sadly. And this isn't meant to throw mud at anybody, but we're saying, you all know people who are like this, you all know people, if you're patients here, you all know people who are like this, who make fun of you for coming here. Yes or yes? That's all I got to say. You all know people, you all have relatives who are like, oh, well, you're not eating ho-hos and Twinkies anymore? Well, what kind of quack are you going to? I don't know. Somebody that teaches you the truth? I don't know. Okay, next. Oh, this one hurts. So you see non-mask wearers as disease-spreading defiant imbeciles, when in reality, they're fighting for the last remnants of your freedom you didn't know you were about to lose. I don't know if you can tell, it's a little dark in here, but this, it's two hands covering up the girl's mouth. It's a little dark. Right? So, getting back to this. Your medications shouldn't cause any interactions. There is no way that someone can say that to you with absolute certainty. Your medications shouldn't cause any interactions. How do I know this? Go to drugs.com, go to Hippocrates.com, type in your drug, look at the side effects. Look at the thousands or sometimes hundreds of side effects. Then, take grandma's second medication, type it in, look at the side effects, take all of those papers, throw them up in the air, and that's the chances of you figuring out her side effects and how it's being caused by her drugs, her genetics, her diet, her stress level, her previous surgeries, her missing organs, and all of the other stuff that she's on, taking, near, around, or affected by. There's no way to predict all of the interactions by dozens. Sometimes I saw somebody last week, 27 medications, there's 23 medications. No computer on this planet could predict the possible interactions of all those chemicals within those medications. So there is no way a human could tell you that. Does that make sense? So when somebody says, no, the reactions cannot be because of the drugs, they are lying. Or they're just very ignorant. And they just don't want to admit, I can't really tell you what the possibilities are. Does that make sense? Your medications shouldn't cause any interactions. Your diet looks fine to me. Eat anything you want. As you're looking at the overweight gastroenterologist with overweight staff. I'm not making fun of overweight people. I'm not. What I'm saying is you're taking advice from someone that doesn't fit the bill of someone you should maybe take advice for. It would be like taking financial advice from somebody, riding a bicycle to work every day. And not a nice bicycle. You know what I mean? Or taking relationship advice from somebody who's not been very successful with relationships. Your diet looks fine to me. Eat anything you want. Tells me, especially depending on who it's coming from. The doctors are not trained in this nation. The doctors are not trained in nutrition. Medical doctors. This is widely renowned. This is widely known. I'm not saying this to throw anybody under the bus. What I'm saying is they are not trained in nutrition. Except if you take this drug, don't eat this food. If you take this drug, don't drink grapefruit juice. If you eat this drug, like we talked about, don't eat green leafy vegetables. That's all the nutritional information they know. Next, your blood looks fine to me. It's all. This kind of piggybacks off of that one. Your blood looks fine to me. It's all within normal limits. Well, then why am I sick? Well, your blood looks fine to me. How many of you have heard this? Every hand go up. I feel sick. Well, let's take your blood. Problem. You're on 6 medications. You eat crap. So when I take your blood, I'm not looking at your blood. I'm looking at 6 medications, and I'm looking at crap. I'm not looking at human blood. So that's why we don't do blood first out of the gate. If we want to waste a bunch of your money, insurance will pay for it. If we want to waste a bunch of your money, sure, let's do blood. Because we already know you're not eating right and we're on a bunch of meds. Sure, let's take your blood. Makes no sense, does it? But how about after 3 to 6 months? Hey, if you've still got something sticking around that we want to work on, here's the thing. Go get your blood. Go down to LabCorp, get your blood. I'll look at it. We'll figure it out. Doesn't that sound like a better way to spend your money than let's just take blood lab, even though you're on 6 medications and you eat crap. So your blood looks fine to me. It's all within normal limits. Let me tell you this too. For lab values around a region or around a locality, are these the same lab values here in Cleveland, Tennessee that you would get lab values, say, if you went to Los Angeles, California? What? What do you mean? Not the same lab values? There's not a normal overall cholesterol, normal overall blood sugar, normal overall? So you're telling me the numbers are different based on location? Right. Would you be as healthy in Denver, Colorado with your blood oxygenation levels as the same as the blood oxygenation levels here? No. So there are changes in the blood lab numbers, small, between place to place. Let me ask you this. Who goes to get their blood tested? Well, hold on, let's back up. The blood lab numbers for that area are based upon what? Huh? Ooh, yes, yes. Oh, she's one step ahead of me. Averages. Yes, it's averages. You're right. Averages of what? So who's getting their blood tested? Sick people or healthy people? Sick people. So are the numbers you're looking at the average numbers of healthy people or the average numbers of sick people? So should we be looking at those numbers? Not if you want to be healthy, right? Moving on. Your intestinal problems are completely unrelated to your diet. I will never forget this one because this was one of my first patients when I opened my doors, February of 2014. She had found me online somehow, or somebody told her about me. And she had given up on medicine when she had carted her daughter all over the United States to Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Stanford or something out west, Berkeley, I don't know. She carted her daughter all over the place and finally gave up on medicine the day that the gastroenterologist looked her in the eye and said, your daughter's Crohn's disease can't be fixed. And she said, well, could it have, she'd been looking online, she'd been looking, researching, going to Dr. Google, which I don't recommend unless you're in a situation like this. She looks at the doctor and she told me this and she said, this is the day I gave up on medicine. She looked at the doctor and said, is there any way that this could be caused, that my daughter's disease, this thing that's been plaguing our lives, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars carting her over the place from specialist to specialist, is there any way that this could be caused by her diet? And the doctor laughed in her face and said, no, there's no way. She said, I gave up on medicine. That's where this one came from, was from her mouth. Your intestinal problems are completely unrelated to your diet. And that changed her whole the course of her life. She actually she brought her daughter into us. I was my first year out of school. She was one of my first patients, and we got her miraculously better. And I don't know where she's at now, but she's doing better. They moved away. They got their freedom back, and they boogied. They moved away. It was awesome. So that's something very close to my heart there. Ready? Commercial break.
All right, so this person said, I had a stiff and tight neck with a very short range of motion. After the PEMF bed, I had less stiffness and pain and more range of motion. So that was the pulse therapy that we were talking about.
Yes, lots of pulse testimonials, yeah?
Yes.
Cool.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so your intestinal problems are completely unrelated to your diet. We covered that one. Any questions so far on any of these? These are sounding familiar? Everybody in here has heard of these, right? Next. Love this one. You know where I got this one? From my mom and from about 50,000 other patients since then. You've heard this. It's bone on bone. You're going to need surgery. What happens to your meniscus? Well, let me ask you this. What happens to every muscle in your body over time? Does it degenerate or does it regenerate? What happens to every artery in your body? What happens to every cell, of every hair, every skin cell? Does it degenerate and fall apart or does it regenerate? It regenerates. Do your bones regenerate? Do your nerves regenerate? Does your hair, does your eyeballs regenerate? Do your heart valves regenerate? Does your meniscus regenerate? It has to, unless you're dead. It has to. What does this mean? It just means on x-ray, it doesn't look good. That's what that means. So can the body regrow meniscus? I don't know. Can it regrow cartilage anywhere else? Yeah? The answer is yeah. Can you fix someone if they want to be fixed? Yes. So my mom was scheduled for surgery. It was bone on bone. I knew at her age there would be antibiotics, there would be, anesthetics, there would be painkillers, there would be muscle relaxers, there would be all kinds of stuff in a cocktail, and I didn't want her going in and doing that. And I said, well, let's fix this. How do you do it? You adjust her, you do laser, you do percussion, you do nutrition. What's nutrition? How's nutrition going to fix this? You're going to give the body the raw materials, the genuine replacement parts that it needs to regenerate the meniscus and then you're going to stimulate it with adjustments. You're going to laser it, which hits the DNA with light energy, right? How many of you in here know what our laser does or has had any results on the laser? Yeah, what's a result on the laser?
Decrease in the scar. It was keloid, but now it's pretty well flat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got to look at that. Yeah. Oh, and you had a goose egg on your noggin one time. I forgot about the goose egg. Like a cartoon goose, like a literal goose egg. But yeah, the faster you get to someone's injury with with a laser, the easier it's going to fix. So if you wait and let it deteriorate and tell the person bone on bone on bone on bone, nothing you can do, and they just have to hobble around for 2 decades, what's it going to do in their mind? What's it going to do to their body's ability to fix that? Nothing. It's going to put them in a hole. And then what happens 3 to 5 years after they do the right knee? What happens? They're coming for the other knee.
And then the hip.
Then they move up. Right hip, left hip. You follow me? But if you can adjust somebody and get rid of their knee pain or hip pain within seconds, sometimes, and that's happened. I don't know how many times. I'm not saying it happens every time, but if you can do that and immediately alleviate their pain, restore the alignment in their appendages, you can fix a lot of stuff. You're going to need surgery? No, we did that with my mom. She didn't need surgery. That was 5 years ago. She still doesn't need surgery. She's doing just fine. That was my mom. So if I did that with my mom, what am I going to do with you? Same thing. What am I going to do with you? Same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing. Next. Oh yeah, we got, this is another kind of, showstopper here. This is the way I make a lot of friends. Sedentary, depressive, obese nation of alcohol-dependent, junk food, phone, and opioid addicts mask themselves. You have to ask yourself these questions, you guys. This is not directed towards anyone specifically. Understand. And this was me back in high school, so I don't even look like that anymore. I'm just kidding. This is not directed towards anybody. It's telling you to think critically. We're not making fun of people. If I was making fun of people and I didn't have a heart for people, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. You got me? What do your results mean? This is a friend of mine sent this from a COVID test. Okay, so if you test positive, a positive result shows you may have antibodies from an infection with the virus that causes CV. However, there is a chance a positive result means that you have antibodies from an infection with a virus from the same family of viruses called coronaviruses, meaning colds and flus, right? Such as the one that causes the common cold. This is right on your phone, what do you do if your test is positive? Well, you may have antibodies, but it may be from an infection of a cold. That's what that says. You get me? So if you had a previous cold, or if you had a previous flu, or if you had a previous flu shot, you might already have antibodies to CV. You get me? See how those numbers all of a sudden go crazy? Having antibodies to the virus that causes CV may provide protection from getting infected with the virus again. If it does, we don't know how much protection the antibodies may provide or how long this protection may last. There's a whole lot of maybes there. Okay? We're just bringing these up because this is the current state of affairs. We got another one? Oh, and then here, New England Journal. This is probably the second, some would argue the first leading journal in the United States as far as medicine goes, right? Universal masking, May 21st, right in the smack middle of the whole thing, right in the middle of the pandemic. We know wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection. In many cases, the desire for widespread masking is a reflective reaction to anxiety over the pandemic. Now, my heart goes out to people who still have to wear masks. If it's being forced on them at work or whatever and they're running around, you go put a mask on, you go climb the stairs. Go try that. My heart goes out. Medical workers who have to wear masks, they're in, small, an enclosed environment. Usually it's air conditioned. They're not running very far and they're not doing very much heavy lifting, in most cases, and they're not running upstairs. But these guys that have to do this stuff while they're masked, waiting tables, running around with a mask on your face, my heart goes out to them. And this is not at all belittling any of the healthcare professionals that have to do this too. A lot of healthcare people have to wear masks now more than they did before. Difference between surgical masks and cloth masks made by grandma, big difference. Look at the size of a virus particle. We'll talk. Next. Okay, so so this is number 43. See, we're at 43 right now. He might never walk or talk again. What does that comment do to someone who's already been in a traumatic accident? I've heard this so many times. What was that, Brittany? It removes hope. So many times. You are either working for fear or you're working for faith. And when you say that statement right there, what side of the line are you on? Fear. He might never walk or talk again. How many times have you heard this? Like the first thing that happened, if the bullet would have been a quarter inch to the left, I'd have been dead. Or there's no way they can know that. There's no way they can know that. Makes them sound like God though, doesn't it? Next, we need more imaging to be sure. Well, you've already got a CAT scan, you've already got an MRI, you've already got a blood lab, you've already got an ultrasound. In many cases, you've got some x-rays, right? You guys have been through this, right? We need more imaging to be sure. To be sure of what? The name of the disease or the location? Or so many times, the insurance is thoroughly covered, yes. Or they're thoroughly, yeah, I know what you mean. They're thoroughly covered by insurance a lot of times. Who was it last week? Oh, who was that said he was, no, not in here. Where was that? He'd had an accident and he was doing perfectly fine until they found out.
Oh, that was Andre's dad.
Oh, yeah, Andre's dad. Finger. Okay, Andre, hey, if you're listening out there, and Steven, I'm going to tell the story. So the guy had an accident in the shop, I believe, circular saw, bandsaw, something like that. I can't remember. And he knocked off a couple fingers. He was at the student clinic, I believe, at where the hospital, and they were doing perfectly fine and everything. And then, until they found out his insurance coverage, then they called in an award-winning specialist, and he stitched them back on. They fell off 2 days later. But he said, I shudder to think that that the students cared more, but it wasn't. He said, I lost my fingers because I had insurance. That just blew me away. So true, and you hear about that. You'll see documentaries, you'll see things online, you'll talk to people's relatives, that same type of story. Had he not had that great insurance, they wouldn't have called the specialist, and the specialist trying to be a hero and sew the stuff back on. God, thank God for some of the miracles that we can pull off in an emergency room. What I'm talking about is the other stuff. The chronic 35 years of, 27 medications and then wondering why grandma can't remember your name. That's what I'm talking about. So we need more imaging to be sure? Not necessarily. The reaction definitely wasn't because of the drug or the shot. I've heard this so many times. But you know what? What could the reaction be from, Danny? What are you taking? What's that other doctor got you on?
Medicaid?
No. What do
Say that?
No, what do I have you on? What's always going to be the result?
Oh, so.
There you go. I knew you'd get it eventually, brother. Definitely wasn't because of the drug or the shot, right? Could have been some of those supplements. Well, it's funny because every supplement we have is made of purely plants and animals. So unless your body is allergic to plants and animals, guess what? We just eliminated that little theory, right? Ooh, here we go. I didn't even see where this one was coming up. Danny, sleep apnea is deadly, Danny. You need a CPAP. One of my patients is a respiratory therapist. She said, so we've gotten a few people off their CPAPs. We still need to make an appointment to drag your CPAP out in the driveway.
Okay.
Is that okay? Can we still do that? I want to murder that thing. I want to put it on YouTube. I'll murder those things. I can't wait. But we've gotten a patient off of a CPAP, and he said, hey, this blew my mind because he'd said, I can finally cuddle with my wife and I can go camping. I said, what do you mean? It occurred to me, I finally realized, oh, the thing's got to plug in. Duh, I'd never thought about it before. And so he's got this big, gas mask on his face, so he's not, getting frisky with the wifey, and at the same time, and he can't roll over, and he's got to plug the thing in so he can't go camping. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, so we got done talking to him, and I'm just prancing into the next room, and I look and I say, oh my gosh, she's a respiratory therapist. I'm going to have to ask her, hey, have you ever had anybody die of sleep apnea? She said, no, never. So have you ever heard of anybody dying of sleep apnea? She said, no. So what's the scare? I just want to know. I already know, but I want to hear it from you. I wrote all this down. This ended up here. She said the only thing, that's why it's called obstructive sleep apnea, is it has to be caused by an obstruction, or in most cases, being overweight. So what you're telling me is sleep apnea is a nutritional disorder. And she said pretty much. Pretty much, yeah. Unless there's something that's causing neurological insult or something that's causing weight restrict, stuff to press down on trachea. But I said, you don't know of any cases of somebody actually dying from sleep apnea. She said, no. So that makes sense, because your body would never allow you to lay there and just suffocate. you would roll over, you would do something. Your body, to think that your body, unless you're drugged out of your face, unless you pulled an Elvis, okay, where you're just drugged out of your face and your body can't tell which way's up, and you roll over and you suck a pillow for 25 minutes or something. Well, unless your body is drugged out of its face, there is no way it's going to allow you to run out of oxygen and suffocate. Amen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sleep apnea is deadly, don't you know? You've got to have a CPAP. But how many times have we crushed a CPAP? We're coming up on half a dozen now. And we're coming for you, Grizz. Coming for you. See your tongue hanging out of your face back there? Oh, I love this one, all you guys out there. I love this one.
Big
Who-
5-0.
Who loves colonoscopies? Danny, raise your hand. Yeah? Oh, yeah. This is a good one, too. This is a good one. It's time for your colonoscopy. Why is that not necessarily truthful? What are they looking for? Just like any of these other, what are we looking for? Here's the key. Here's the key. What are we looking for? What are you going to do when you find it? Huh? Or? There's only two things you can do. You're going to cut it or you're going to drug it. When we do CAT scans or EKGs or EEGs, or when we do x-rays, or we do blood labs, or we do whatever, what are the only two things you can possibly do? Cut it or drug it. You might do another procedure. In that case, we'd need more imaging. But there's only two things. So any procedure that you don't want the outcome to be cutting or drugging, don't do the procedure. Well, but my insurance pays for, See? But my insurance pays for a mammogram, right? Why would your insurance pay for that? Yes, there's preventative stuff, but if you do all the preventative stuff on your own, see, a mammogram's not preventive. It's already there. It didn't prevent squat. How do you prevent the lumps from being there? Figure out what causes the lumps. And the lumps won't be there. Then you don't need that. Does that make sense? Okay. Next. How many of you want a colonoscopy? Danny? No? Dennis, you want a colonoscopy?
I just had one.
Did you? How'd it go? How'd it go for you?
Well, I don't remember any
Was
of
it-
it, but they took out a couple of polyps.
Oh, okay. Huh. So you don't remember, but was it fun? I mean, did you have a good time?
The prep is
I would-
awful.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had one at 30. So.
Oh, did you really? Wow. How many of you in here have had, I've never had the honor, privilege, or the fun. How many of you in here? Colonoscopies? Half the crowd. Really?
I
Wow.
had to go ride go-karts when I came out.
They told you you could go ride
So
go-karts?
I tried to talk her to let me go.
Oh.
She wouldn't pay me to Pigeon Forge.
Of course. Go ride go-karts and eat ice cream after your appointment? Of course, Danny. Of course. Of course. So like that's a good indication right there. Like, okay, the polyps, let me ask you this. I already know the answer. Did they tell you what the polyps are from?
No, sir.
Did they tell you how to prevent the future polyps?
No, sir.
Okay. Huh? Come back and get another. See, that's what we're trying to expose here. Just more of a critical level of thinking where you go, okay, well, instead of living in fear of, gosh, I might have polyps and I might have to go get them cut out and I might have cancer, I might have to get resection. Instead of living in that fear, you can live in that surety, that certainty, that level of, man, nothing can touch me. Everything is golden. I don't have to live in fear of some cancer diagnosis falling out of the sky and landing on my face. Now I'm in control of my destiny, see? Now I'm in control of my life. Well, but I like Pop-Tarts. Fine. Eat the Pop-Tarts. Well, but I like Mountain Dew. Fine. Drink the Mountain Dew and eat the Pop-Tarts. I don't care. I just want to help you. But if you are addicted, if your taste buds are calling the shots instead of your will and your heart calling the shots, man, you got bigger problems than I can fix. You follow me? Grizz, you had a question?
No, I was just gonna say, I had that done and the doctor told me mine was too long.
I don't know what to say about this.
I don't even know either.
Talk about your polyps?
No.
Oh,
The colonoscopy, the colon.
Oh. your colon was too long.
That's what he said.
You couldn't get in there.
They didn't knock him out back then all these years ago. He just had to scream through it. And they took him to his seat and turned him upside down.
That's why we call him the grizzly bear, folks. Grizz, that's where he gets his name, I guess.
We can walk through every one of these stories you're doing and give our testimonies. over the
Really?
last 35 years.
Wow.
20 years ago, they were kind of crude.
No. Jesus. Oh my gosh. I'm sure.
I got to lay in front of the mirror so the dog so you can watch. Now go, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you're showing him how to do the procedure. Lord have mercy.
He did.
Oh Lord. We need a commercial break. Get up here.
You might get picked to do the next commercial break, Bruce. All right. So this
Oh my
person
gosh.
said that I had painful shin splints in my right leg, and after one therapy, I am healed. So he had one visit to the office, and his shin splint was gone after he had been dealing with it for a while. Yeah.
Ooh. Fabulous. Easy stuff, and it's not always life and death. Sometimes it can be easy stuff like shin splints, Okay, then where did we leave off? Just another couple here, and then I want to have a couple words from some people. Oh yeah, here's some interesting. Well, we talked about this last week. This is a doctor friend of mine, Sarah. If you're out there, thank you for sharing this. This will live on in infamy. I've heard this many times. But her patient's sister-in-law got a call from her doctor. She was positive for CV. She said, "That's interesting because I never got tested." It's like the virgin birth with these positive CV tests. You don't even actually have to get the test, and boom, you're positive. I've heard that since, May? I've been seeing stuff like this all over the internet. Videos, YouTube, Facebook, posts, Twitter, people saying exactly this. Exactly this. So, I've heard pastors talk about their congregations. See, independent science, pastors and people who have kind of a bad mojo about lying, see? Or people that other doctors that they don't have any reason to lie. So that independent science, independent, anecdotal still, but independent at the same time, shows you inconsistencies in the numbers like this versus industry stuff, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, whatever your flavor of media is, two wings of the same bird practically. There is an incentive, there's an agenda there. So here, she is saying, this is one instance of her patient's sister-in-law. So, next. Real pandemics don't require exaggerated virus models that were way off. Some faulty testing kits, that is also true. Rigged results. If you're watching the results from the WHO and the CDC, the numbers are changing constantly. And then falsified death certificates, but psychological operations too. Now, are people dying? Yes. Is there a virus? Yes. Are there multiple viruses? Yes. Is there bacteria? Yes. Are there parasites? Yes. Are there funguses? Yes. Are people dying? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. They always will, they always have. Right here, though, these are all recorded instances of things that people are seeing on a regular basis, including what we talked about last week. Nurse sitting right over here saying on video, not record, not the image, but you could hear her voice saying, yeah, this is what's happening this is what's happening. This is what's happening in the schools. This is what's happening in the hospitals. This is what's happening. And we all need to be made aware of this if you don't already know it. There are some interesting things happening. I remember when this whole thing, go back one just for a second, Dante, sorry, man. Right here, these falsified death certificates. When this thing first dropped 2 weeks in, I got the paperwork from the National Institute of Health talking about how to, it's a downloadable PDF, man. You can go right on the internet and download it. Sent to all the doctors, and many of the doctors had posted it. Many medical doctors had posted this. I'm in groups with all these guys, and had posted this stuff and said, look at what's happening. They're telling us how to list it on the death certificates. And this went viral, went everywhere, all around. It's still happening. I have that paperwork. How to falsify, or not falsify, but it's how to fill out the death certificate so that COVID is a cause, a COD, a cause of death. Next. I won't even say anything for this one. We showed this one last week. I won't even say anything about that. Another couple and we're done. Next. And yes, this is perfect. We'll end right here. We'll be out of here at 7:15. Stick around. Oh, and we can pass out yeah, at least for first timers. Yeah, that'd be good. Infant well baby visits are necessary for healthy children. I could not tell you the number of people who've come here once they got kicked out of their pediatrician's office. Raise your hand. Anybody? Oh yeah, that's right. One. Okay. Huh?
We're on our way there, they wanted to do the shots. Our 12
Oh yeah, yeah. So if a pediatrician kicks you out for what happened to the Hippocratic Oath? Do no harm. You know, I'm going to help people. I'm going to help people. What happened to that? So if you get kicked out of your pediatrician's office, bring it. Come on down. Because besides weighing and measuring and doing antibiotics and shots, I don't know what else, what many other things. But infant well baby visits are necessary for healthy children. Do we have this a very healthy population of American children, or do we have a very sick population of American children? Very sick. Why would that be?
Vaccinations and antibiotics.
Those are two major things. The food, tuition. Oh, nutrition. I was just saying, tuition would be up there too. Tuition, nutrition, yeah, food, exercise, yeah. But we are over medicated, overshot, over injecticated. Huge. Infant well baby visits. Another in kind of my circles, they're called shot appointments. In my circles, your vitamin D level's all right. Just don't go over 60 or 70. I want vitamin D in the 80s and 90s, man. I've got the Merck manual in there, right on the shelf. You all can go grab it and look up vitamin toxicity. See if you can find it in the Merck manual. That is the physician's desk reference of choice for drugs, and you will not find vitamin D toxicity. It's impossible. Your body cleaves those molecules depending upon how much sunlight you get. So I want your numbers. Mine is in the 80s and 90s and 100s whenever I get my vitamin D tested. That's where I want mine. Yeah, we talk about that later too. We should do the surgery before your... That's a great one. I see smiles all over the place. I can't tell you how many people have come in and said, well, doctors are telling me my insurance is running out pretty soon, or I'm switching insurance plans or whatever, and they're saying if I'm going to do this hip replacement, I should do it now. Well, that's up to you, man. Do you need to? Do you really want to do that? I don't know. It's really up to them. They're sovereign people. They can do whatever they want. I try to let them know if you were a brother, if you were a dad, if you were an uncle, you know, here's the things to look forward to that they're not going to tell you about. I'll tell you that straight up. So yeah, that's another one of those. We could do the surgery. We could do the gastric bypass if you were 2 inches shorter, right? That happens. We talked about this earlier, birth control pills. This is a lie. And the HPV vaccine, that's the Gardasil vaccine. You all know that, right? HPV, human papillomavirus, the most dangerous shot out there. Do not allow anyone you know to get that. Birth control pills and the shot will not license your daughter for promiscuity. It's funny because I grew up in the middle of that nonsense, and anybody who was on the pill, guess what? They didn't worry about too much. So if your granddaughters and your nieces are on that, think about it. It's one of those things. But they'll give you those in order for, see, PMS, menstruation is now a disease, just like pregnancy. So the bleeding or the pain or the nausea can be a reason for these to be given out. You know, just like we can stop the bleeding, we'll just take the organ out. Well, we can stop the bleeding, we'll just drug you to death. So now you're on a controlled state of menopause for 30-something years, and then you're wondering why you can't get pregnant when you get married. You're in a controlled state of menopause. That's what that is. Just cutting it to you straight. Last but not least, this is the biggest one. This is the shortest one, but this is the most telling one ever. Why is that a lie? Why is that a problem? Anybody? Someone bring? Well, yes, all things are possible through him who believes. Yes, through Jesus, absolutely. But how could a human ever say that? How could a human say, hey doc, could that cream you gave me, could it cause my rash? That's not possible. In order to say that's not possible, you'd have to have infinite knowledge, which would mean that you are God himself. Does that make sense? It's like saying there's no God. In order for you to make that sentence, you would have to have all knowledge, which would make you God, which would disprove the statement that you just made. Right? So that's not possible. A human can't make that statement. Really? And specifically, like what we were talking about before, with this list of medications and this list of medications and your genetics and your DNA and your stress and your background and your hip replacement and your previous surgery, there's no way that you could say with certainty that that's not possible. It's just impossible to say that that's not possible. Anyway, we'll stop there. Say what?
But if you're a doctor, it's possible.
It's possible for them to say that, but saying it's not possible is impossible. I'm just kidding. Does everybody get that? Do you need me to explain it more? Danny, you need me to explain it more?
I believe it's impossible.
It's impossible. Okay. See, impossible says I'm possible. It's interesting, huh? So any questions on any of these? And then we'll pass out. Well, we'll do one more commercial break, I suppose. Does everybody get the point of why we did these? Does anybody have... Interesting? Have you guys seen all these? You guys have experienced some of this. Anything that you guys have thought of that isn't up here? Anything you've heard? Kathy, come on, you got some. No? One of yours was in there. One of yours was, yeah. That was such a good one. I said, oh, Kathy's going to love this one. Got one of those in there for
I got
Kathy.
the elbow.
Oh, yeah? Did you? I figured. Oh, yeah. And
I have a question from Facebook.
fabulous. Yes. Facebook question.
All right. He says, I do have concerns about the upcoming pressure of shots for COVID.
Ooh, yeah.
I've heard arguments this will be a different type of shot. Any chance you could discuss the specifics of why COVID shot will be dangerous? Just need some wisdom from the guru, Dr. Brett.
The guru. Well, here, I'll go get him. Hold on a second. Well, what they're saying about this new vaccine is it's a DNA vaccine or an RNA vaccine. So previous vaccines up to now, previous shots, I should say, have been live or attenuated, meaning or dead viral particles in the shots, which means there's either live viral particles or there's dead viral particles or there's attenuated too, and that means the viral particles are weakened so as not to be as virulent as as when they're actual strong, full viruses. What Moderna, the company who is propagating this, and what the talking heads on TV are talking about, and what your favorite computer developer is talking about is a DNA vaccine, or a vaccine that changes your DNA. So if you put viral particles into a shot, and you put chicken tissue, and you put bovine tissue, and you put monkey tissue, all regular occurrences of constituents of a vaccine, or of a shot, I should say. Y'all know this? There are different organs of different animals, or different parts of organs, or different animals, or different pieces and parts of microorganisms that are cultured on different animal parts in the shots, along with a lot of other chemicals, a lot of other what are called adjuvants and preservatives and all this other nonsense that they say is there for a purpose, but that's not really why they're there. So that all being said, this DNA vaccine, this shot is, nobody really knows. It's all conjecture right now, but they're talking about how this shot can rewrite portions of your DNA. Let's all face it. We've been cloning sheep for 20 years. You think you're not cloning humans? Mm-hmm. Military, deep state stuff. We did Dolly, back in 98? When was Dolly? Anybody? The sheep? That was like the late 90s, right? So we're doing humans, we're doing all this stuff. We got CRISPR now. We know we've got the human genome down. We figured out all this stuff. So that being said, this shot can be very different and can put different sequences into your DNA so that you will express or not express certain sections of your DNA. It's completely possible, along with all the nanotechnology, along with all of the radio waves, along with all of the adjuvants and chemical additives and all the other things that if you were just to go to Merck or go to Pfizer or go and look at the vaccine, look at the shot. Look at the shot. Look at the injectant contents. Just look up the inserts for these for these chemicals, and you'd see everything that's in there. You'd go, my God, why would it? If you put that in your kid, or had your kid eat that, you'd go to prison for child abuse. Yet you're being coaxed to put it into their blood supply. Their blood supply past their tonsils, and you get where I'm going with this, past their digestive tract, past all of the other ways that it would have previously made it into your body. You get scratched on the skin, the original shot, they scratched the cowpox into William Jenner's little boy, right? And the skin took care of it, right? Now we've got hypodermics to put it past the defenses of the skin directly into your blood. That's where the problem lies. There is no defense. Now you have hypersensitivity, you have immune problems, you have autoimmune problems. We talked to classes about this, the evil parents of autoimmunity, a couple months ago. Watch that class. You want to know about what's up with shots, watch that class. So this whole thing, the conjecture behind it and the science behind it, everybody's saying it's going to be a DNA shot. You ain't fixing that. Once it changes your DNA, take that one step further. So in the future, you won't be buying or selling or, any commerce without the mask. Well, that will eventually turn into that one little thing that we talked about. Now it's a mask. Later it'll be a digital ID or a vaccine or a shot. And then after that, it'll be a chip. So the buy, sell, or trade without a mask soon will turn into, if things don't stop and turn around shortly, will turn into you will not buy, sell, or trade without the mark of the what? Not mark of the human, mark of the, what did I say they put into the shots? So your DNA will no longer be fully human. You will be another beast. You'll be another creature. You will not be fully human, therefore not be capable of salvation and redemption. So that is why whoever receives that will not be, I didn't write the book. Does that make sense? So nobody really knows, or at least I don't know. There are probably some scientists out there. Judy Mikovits is speaking openly about this, but she's being censored. She's writing books. They're being taken off Amazon. She's putting out movies. They're censoring them. So once again, if this stuff's being censored, Judy Mikovits, Mikovits. Yes. Yeah, and the Plague of Corruption. Yes, Plandemic was the film. Plague of Corruption was her book, and she's a PhD level heavy-duty scientist that was working with Fauci back in the day, and she came out and said, here's what, she came clean, but of course she's not the type of PhD we want to listen to. She's been disproven and she's a fake, but she's not making money off the thing, right? So industry science versus independent. So to answer your question, nobody really knows. I'm never going to experience it, I can tell you right now, and anybody in this room under the sound of my voice, you better look into this stuff. Come to that show, come to that movie next Monday, and you will understand an entirely different world about shots. You will understand why it's being censored. You will understand why they pulled the movie. You'll understand why it was yanked from film festivals. So what I'm saying, we're doing this in order to educate you so that you can go to your school boards, you can go to your teachers, you can go to your school nurses, and you can say, hey, my kid ain't getting this. Because if it's not mandatory by the fall, I'll be very surprised. If they don't remove your religious exemptions, they're going for your religious exemptions first. Medical exemptions are going to go bye-bye too. And then your philosophical exemptions, you won't have those if the religious ones go. So all you homeschoolers and people, homeschooling doesn't save you anymore. Everybody's homeschooling. That's not the way out of this anymore. You want to go Amish? That might be your only way. Might be a good way, right?
Even they go to American doctors.
Sometimes, yep. Yeah, there are some docs that I do. I go to seminars every once in a while. I'll see some Mennonite or some Amish doctors, that just don't. They're off the grid. They don't do any of this. They don't do any of this nonsense. So I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody does, but there are scientists speaking out about this. That's why we're doing this thing next week, so you all can make an educated decision. Go to your mayor. Go to your public people. Go to all your people and say, look, here's the science. Here's what's happening. So if they make it mandatory, that's different than if they make it compulsory. Do you know the difference between compulsory? They'll hold you down and put it in you. Mandatory is you can go get it on your own terms. But there'll be ways, after a while, people will figure out a way around the system and fake it, and that's when they're just going to say, nope, we're just going to do it as an ID, digital tattoo. There's no faking that. It's just like your license. You can't fake that. You got a 3D little printer thing you think you're going to do? There's no way. Nope, they'll put it right in your, it's going to be a holographic thing, and boom, 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 who knows? So, I don't know. Good question. What was the last part of it? I think, did I answer all of that?
Yes, you did.
It's a great question, but at least he's thinking, he or
Yeah.
she, at least they're thinking along the lines of people going back to work saying that they have to wear a mask now,
Yeah.
or people going back to work saying I have to get checked, or I have to get a positive or a negative test. I mean, you got to stand up and you got to learn what this stuff is, or you're going to fall for all of it. It's people are being swept under. Leslie, can we have you say a word? You want to say a few things? You started as a patient how long ago?
It's been almost a
Come on.
week, I think.
Da-da-da. Come on.
I'd like my husband to come
Oh
up
yeah,
if he would,
Grizz, get up
please.
here.
I don't understand.
Oh, okay, he can't stand because he's had knee
Oh, okay.
replacements, shoulder replacements, 14 back surgeries, and a broken neck as a result of 15 medications he was on, which he dumped. All those medications, cold turkey, well, almost killed him twice. We had to call the ambulance twice. But he is here, living proof that Jesus Christ is alive and well and lives in him. Hallelujah, hallelujah. So anyway, that's my husband's commercial.
Okay, I'll take it. Infomercial.
I've been treated by doctors starting out on Ritalin when I was 6, so I won't go into all that.
Wow.
I'm a survivor of every kind of abuse you can think of. I've been everything there is to be, every place there is to be, and my body became very, very sick. And I've been to doctors in 5 states wherever we lived. Here, my doctor, he's a nice man, but he kept telling me, your thyroid's all right. I want to know what all my levels are. Your thyroid is all right. You're fine. A little low, but you're fine. I got sicker and sicker. I found a functional medicine doctor, and she put me on, I think it was 12 drugs or 15, and I didn't have them all listed because I still had 3 or 4 that
Oh, here?
my other
Yeah.
doctor had me on.
A
So I was
couple
approximately
handfuls.
20-some drugs that I've been taking. I self-medicate and do my own thing. So he kind of looked at some of that and said, well, we're going to kind of start here. And I said, well, you know, what you can really do for me? He said, what do you want to work on? So there's one thing I want to work on. I'm not sure I even believe yet that it can really get fixed because it's just awful. And then there's 5 or 6 or 8 other things. I have 5 or 7 diagnoses between Lyme, MS, pancreatitis. I've had MS since I lost my vision in '94. It came back. I mean, I've had all kinds of stuff, spider bites, bit by something in Colombia, South America. I had a fever for 4 days. The Queen was on her knees praying for me, you know, that I would live, and I did. He came to visit me, so he said, I don't remember. So I've been through the mill with my body. I'm fearless. I'm stupid. I just go. I love God and I'll do what he wants. But my relationship with him got pretty sketchy when I started getting so very sick. So I came in here maybe shortly after you opened up, and I looked and I said, this is great. I know about this. I work for a chiropractor. I've done this therapy light stuff. I've done a lot of stuff. So then I came back later and
Oh, after
talked
we
to
opened,
somebody-
after we
right,
started
after
at this building.
Yeah. And then I came
Yeah.
back a few months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got tied up with this other doctor, and she was putting me on all these drugs, and I was struggling with her because I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So I finally came in, and he did some muscle testing, which I was familiar with and so grateful. And he found some things, because my doctor keeps treating me for this lung infection where I keep spitting up horrible things, and it's really awful, and I get really sick. And he said, we've got this thing here. And I went, oh, no, I think it's over here. He goes, no, it's here. Okay, so I'm not trusting him yet. I'm getting there. I mean, I trust
Don't
him
worry,
now.
She'll get there.
Oh, I do. I mean, I do now. So my problem that I put at the top of the list, I said, if this would stop, these 2 things, I could begin to have a normal life. I have 2 children out here, and a 12-year-old, almost 12-year-old we adopted when she was really little, and her sister, who we have custody of. He's 70-something, I'm 60-something, and I could hardly get out of bed, even to come to my appointment. And I said, God, if you don't fix this now, you've called me to something I'm not going to be able to do, and I don't believe that way. So to make a long story short, because I'm a talker, that number 1 thing at the top of my list is so minimal. I can live my life. I mean, he's only got me on a couple things. I've been eating clean for a long time, but I kept asking him, do I really have to just eat the non-GMO, or can I just eat the organic?
Yeah.
Every time I know the answer. I
We'll
mean,
work
come
on
on.
it.
duh.
We'll work on that. Yeah.
But I
We'll
can
get
only
there.
do what I can get financially, too. And
We'll get
then
there.
he made that affordable. I mean, I couldn't say no. I mean, my husband, and now and I said, you're next. You're
Coming
next.
for you, Grizz.
They've got him on statins. That
Coming for you.
We've been reducing. They've got him, he's not on as many medications as he was, but
Yeah.
he wears a BiPAP, not just a CPAP, but a BiPAP.
But they still don't know what's
Yeah, I know they don't.
A BiPAP?
Yeah. They could put a pacemaker in him.
Nose and mouth? No.
Uh,
Huh? Oh, man.
I'm gonna die in my sleep.
I gotta see this. I gotta see this. I gotta see
yeah,
this.
they,
Wow.
they have terrified me and mortified me and
So you've been
horrified me,
here-
but he's still kicking.
So you've been here a couple
This
weeks,
is
maybe week 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So your results, where you're at, where were you before and where you're at now?
where I was before was dragging around the house.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been very active.
So like
I can't
numbers,
do my
numbers
work.
wise, like how bad was it at the beginning and how bad is it now?
Well, it's
Couple
probably
weeks
a 10 bad.
Yeah.
10 bad.
Now where are you?
I'd say right now, I mean, heck, I'm up here, I'm talking, I'm feeling pretty, a little shaky. I'm tired. It's been a long day, but I probably like a 5, maybe a
Sweet.
4.
50%?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Praise God and thank God for him. My husband who sticks by me. Thank you
Right
for
on.
letting me share.
No problem. No problem. Thank you, darling. So those are just some of the results just 2 weeks in, you know, and she's been through a lot. You know, family's been through a lot, but we got to keep her alive so she can take care of these kids out here. And everybody here will have or already has their own story. Miss Dorothea, Kathy, Danny. Kathy hasn't killed Danny yet. I count that as a win. Saving lives ahead of time. I mean, preventing murders way ahead of time. We got another, what do we got?
Oh, I'm just,
Oh, yeah, yeah. So Andrea's going to hand these out. We'll sign off here in just a second. Just fill out these surveys. We just want to know what you learned, something big. If nothing else you put on here, put down like an idea for a future class, something that's bugging you, something you want to know about. Or put down something you learned, something you didn't know, something that confirmed something, anything. If you're a couple and, you know, just do one. If you're new and you want to know, you want to be on the email newsletter list and stuff like that, put your email down. We don't. If you're currently a patient, we don't need your address and all that. Just write down feedback.
I've got pens if anybody needs.
Write down feedback. Just tell me, hey, you look funny. Your mom addresses you funny. I don't like the sound of your voice. Whatever it is, put that down. So I'll make sure not to change it. And then write down what you learned, or write down something that confirmed what God had already been telling you, or what God had already been speaking to you. Something that is going to change your direction in life, something you want to change. Give me an idea for a future class. I don't care, anything. Just don't leave it blank, or we will hunt you down. All right, any questions, anything else? Next week, huh?
We have a spinner tonight.
Oh, we do have a spinner. Brittany. Anybody else have your little, so make sure you get, oh, yeah? Is Kathy spinning? We have punch cards. This is one of the greatest things ever, because now all the patients are clamoring to get to our wheel of supplements, our wheel of miracles, we call it. So you fill up your little punch card, you share stuff, you like stuff, you invite people, you bring people, and you get little punches, and then you can spin the wheel for massive prizes. Stuff on there is anywhere between $10 and $500. You know, there's a bunch of good stuff on there. Bunch of good stuff. So y'all, if you're here right now and you plan on coming to more, get a little card so that you can fill out the punches. Okay? Any questions, comments, concerns before we shut down?
How do you spin the wheel?
How do you spin the wheel? You get a little punch card and you get stamps on it. I think it's at 10.
Yep, 10.
But-
We'll get cards and stamps at the front desk.
Yeah, so you get a card at the front desk, and then you can get 4 punches for each class you come to. Yeah,
So
2.5 classes. Third class, you're winning.
Cards, right?
Boom.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
Did you get one?
And I'll put that up here in just a minute so y'all can check it out. But you get punches for showing up, for coming to the class. You get a punch. Then if you bring somebody, check in when you get here.
Share the live video.
Share the live video.
for even somebody.
Yes. So within a few short classes and changing your life with all this information and inviting and telling people that you can spin a wheel and get something really groovy. Brittany's going to win something here in a minute. Anything else? Questions? Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas, cries of outrage? Anything? I know you've got some cries of outrage. Anybody? Did you all learn something? Fabulous. It's good stuff. You got to be awake. You got to be aware of some of this stuff. So that being said, next week, 6 o'clock here, Vaxxed 2, the movie. We're showing it, RSVP only. It will not be live streamed. And we have some more giveaways. And get here so that, or sign up for it tonight and get here at 6 o'clock, there'll be limited seating. So y'all, thank you for being here. Let's sign off. Thank you, Dr. Brett Spradlin, Divine Design, Natural Health, and we'll see you next week at 6 o'clock. Oh.